See what comes up.
Let's see what comes up. I want to welcome everybody to this special edition of the Be That Guy podcast. My name is DJ Ligori, and today we have an incredible guest on today's show. This individual is a nationally recognized mental performance coach and the founder of Peak Flow. She works with high school, college, and professional athletes across the country to train the mental side of their game. She has supported championship and postseason teams, including UB women's soccer, RIT men's hockey, and Brockport women's basketball. She doesn't just teach these skills, she embodies them. I would like to welcome Lucinda Snyder to the Be That Guy podcast.
Thanks, DJ. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. This
Fun.
is this is going to be cool. I'm very excited to get to learn more about you and learn more about the mental side of life that I haven't already heard about. And I'm ready to get coached today. I'm ready to
All right.
get taught some new things. And so I want to know about your transition from your equestrian career into the mental performance side of life.
Yeah. So if you told that equestrian athlete, little Lucinda, all those years ago, someday you're going to be working with teams and speaking and working with athletes one-on-one, she would have thought I was crazy, right? And then looking back, it's funny, I was telling the story to a team this week, looking back, it all makes sense. It was these like little breadcrumbs, and it took me a while to put all the little breadcrumbs together
Mhm.
to end up in this space. But I really believe that was my path, right? So I had this career, and when I was riding, like I had no fear. Like I knew that if I did my work during the week and I trained hard, that I could show up on the weekend and compete and could beat anybody that I was up against. And I really, like, I believed that, like, in the core of who I was. And then I didn't. And it was like literally waking up one day and somebody had invaded my brain. And it was like, oh, maybe you should be afraid. Maybe you're not as good as you think you are. Maybe like that girl has a more expensive horse. They have better clothes. They have a better training. And I think what my parents did, and what a lot of parents do, is they try to fix the problem. So maybe you need another barn. Maybe you need another trainer. Maybe you need a different teammate, another horse, right? And so we tried to solve the problem that way, and nothing changed. And so I really began to internalize that and think that that was a me problem, as my 15-year-old likes to tell me. That's a you problem, mom. So that was a me problem. And so I was like, well, I just don't love the sport anymore, right? I must not love it. I've fallen out of love with it. It doesn't bring me that joy. And so the next shiny thing was basketball.
Okay.
Well, let me just say, I had zero basketball game, like zero. And so, I ended up walking away and going to play basketball for school. And those same things followed me, right? That same self-doubt, that inner voice that you're not good enough. Somebody else has better talent. Somebody else has better basketball shoes, but right, that it didn't change. And then it didn't change when it was time to go to college or time to get into relationships, and like, oh, well, that person is dating this person and that's better, and this major is better. And like that pattern followed me, right? And I went to therapy, and I said to a group of athletes, I'm like, going to therapy is the single best thing you can do for yourself as a human being. Like, I believe that hands down. But that wasn't a mental thing. That was like the emotional part of my life that I went to therapy for. That didn't solve this mental piece. And so it was when I discovered yoga after my firstborn son passed away after open heart surgery. And there was a moment where I said, okay, I can let this define me, and this is my narrative, and I'm the victim in all of this, and how tragic. Or I find a way to integrate this into who I am and use it for good. I didn't know what use it for good meant. I just knew that in the core of my being, which led me to a yoga studio, and found my way on a yoga mat, and did a lot of physical work, but what surprised me was the mental and emotional work that showed up on my yoga mat. I mean, I often say that like your yoga mat mirrors what you're experiencing off of the mat. And so kind of learning to be with my thoughts, learning to be able to sit with the discomfort, not only in a physical practice, but the emotional discomfort that was coming up. And I knew very quickly that I wanted to teach. And so that's kind of like event number two, was like that loss and then ending up in a yoga studio. Never, still not connecting being an athlete and yoga, right? Still not making that connection. Coming out, fast forward, coming out of yoga teacher training, I was working at the University of Rochester in the financial aid office. So a job that you have to use some of those coping strategies, like that I learned on the mat. Like I would breathe before I got on a phone call with parents to talk about money. Like all of those skills and being present, I started to use and had been through, was meditating, been through meditation teacher training. And a colleague connected me with the head football coach who was new. He had come to rebuild the program and said, "Hey, he's looking for someone to teach yoga to his football team. Would you be interested?" And I was like, "Sure, I would love to do that." Not knowing what I was about to embark on. Like this is defining moment number 3. And I stood in front of that football field with 100 guys looking at me, and I'm like, "Oh boy, I think I like stepped into a zone I'm like not ready for." And it was magical, right? It was magical in that there was laughter, there was joy, there was awkwardness. They were poking at each other. I could talk football language. And all of a sudden we get to the end of practice, which this final pose is this, like you're resting, you're letting your mind and body rest. And I could just like, it still gives me chills like on my arms thinking about it, like just the magic of them settling both physically and mentally. And I was like, ooh, this is pretty cool. I want more of that. And so I began to dig in, learn, read more, practice more, collect teams, and then left my full-time job 3 years ago to just work with teams and athletes. And everybody was like, "You're going to do what?" And I'm like, "Yeah, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I feel called to do." So looking back, though, had those 3 things not happened, I wouldn't be here. Without a doubt. I don't know what I would be doing.
Yeah. That moment when those men were resting,
Mm-hmm.
they were decompressing. Do you see a difference between the male sports teams that you work with and the women's sports teams that you work with when you talk about, hey, take a break and relax and decompress your body?
No, no. I think it's giving themselves, me allowing and creating the space to give themselves permission to do that. Now, I think my male teams might take a little bit longer for the buy-in,
Mhm.
right? They're a little skeptical, but then when they buy in, like they buy in hard, they fall hard,
They fall.
right? They fall hard. And so I think it's that with the yoga, it's getting over that initial movement, right? Because it's uncomfortable, it's new for them. And I had these, these big linemen who are like, "You want me to do what?" Like that's really like uncomfortable and hard. And I don't like, I'm supposed to be strong and yet I can't do this. And here's this like this woman who's here and she's doing it and she's making me look silly because she's doing it with ease. I'm like, "You guys, I do this every day. Like I've been doing this practice for a long time." But I think once giving themselves permission to do that, they settle.
I'm glad you said that because that was like the permission piece, I think, is something that many men have to get to and
Yeah.
feel safe, especially with like a practice of yoga.
Yeah. Yeah.
There isn't much, obviously, there's physicality to it, right? Depending upon the poses that you're in, yet it isn't the violent nature of the snap of a football and me colliding with
Mm-hmm.
somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Much calmer practice that I think as men, we have to kind of rewire what we're doing in that moment to
Yeah.
allow ourselves to really relax. Because I remember being in high school, and I have so many funny stories about this, but my high school basketball coach, awesome guy, Coach Prince, towards the end of my when I was a junior and a senior, he started doing visualizations with us. And I remember we would end practice like 20 minutes or maybe half an hour early, and we'd go into the wrestling room, and we started really looking forward to it. One, because we got to end practice early, and
Yeah.
two, because we got to lay down and just think about, like, he would actually outline that we were on a beach where we were relaxing, and then he would outline, hey, you're in the fourth quarter, and we're winning and we're up. And so we started to visualize this. Yet I can genuinely say that it was weird in the beginning. Like, we weren't
Mhm.
why we were doing it. And then once we looked forward to it and knew what to kind of expect, then we kind of, I think, let our guard down and were more receptive to the actual practice of what we were doing in that moment. And then
Right.
buying into, like, hey, like, there's a whole other side of our game that is not physicality. And that's the next space that I kind of wanted to get into is, why do so many athletes overlook what's between their ears?
Yeah, I mean, I think that because it's not a tangible thing. Like I can't you can't track your reps or your stats, right? There's no pinnacle to get to. I can't say, well, all right, I'm ticking these boxes off and now I'm an expert mental person. Like it's a lifelong practice. And so I think when I think about high performers and athletes, like they're driven, right? They're outcome driven. And I think the mental part is really you're in the process. You have to stay in the process. And a lot of times you're taking these reps and you're doing these practices and you're like, this isn't working,
Mm,
right? What am I don't feel anything. Like this isn't working. And then all of a sudden it works. Like you respond completely different. And you have that moment of like, okay, maybe this is something. I mean, I tell them all the time in my own practice when I was learning to meditate, I was like, this isn't working. Like I don't tell a difference until I showed up at Starbucks on Red Cup Day, right? The day in December where they give the free red cup out.
okay.
And like the parking lot is full. There's people out the door. I'm going to be late to work. And my normal response would have been like to be looking at my watch. I would have been very dramatic. I would have been rolling my eyes. I would have been sighing. You would have known that I was completely irritated that I had to wait.
Mhm.
And instead, took a breath and I was like, okay, well, I'll get my coffee when I get it. And I used that opportunity to just be in my feet and be present and breathe. And then I was like, oh, I reacted differently. And then that impacted how I showed up at work because I wasn't all irritated and dramatic and rushed from having to wait for a dumb red cup that I didn't even want, but somebody did,
Yeah.
like,
Yep.
so I think it's those moments where you learn that it's working when you're not expecting it. And so there's not a tangible outcome.
And I totally agree with you on that. And I think I've often asked myself, because I think I'm naturally a little skeptical of things in the beginning. Maybe it's just because I'm a dude, or because I'm very tangible and outcome driven. And I ask myself, is it worth it? Is it worth the whatever practice you do, whether it's yoga, whether it's a mental fitness type of daily rep thing, whether it's reading, whether it's meditation, is the time and the energy expenditure less than the reward that I'm going to get? And
That's
that's
a great way to look at it.
right, like, and that's the way that I look at it, because to your point, right, we can use the red cup example. I've had
Mhm.
many instances in my life where, when I started doing mental fitness work, I personally use an app each day, and I do it for about maybe 5 to 10 minutes a day. And I can genuinely feel the difference in the way my body feels, and the duration, the time it takes me to get pissed off, the time it takes
Right.
me to get stressed. And I've asked myself, is it worth all of the work that I put in to make sure that I'm mentally there to then have these moments where I typically would get stressed and I just kind of breathe through it and I'm a little bit better and I can focus a little bit more and I can move through it. And I think the numerical way that I like represent this is instead of being stressed for like 3.5 days, maybe I'll be stressed for like 3.5 hours. And that in my brain is like, okay, I'm willing to put in 10 minutes a day to be stressed for 3.5 hours versus 3.5 days. And that's what I want, especially guys, to realize is the importance of a meditation, the importance of a visualization, yoga, working on what's going on between your ears is
Mhm.
going to allow you to decompress the time that you're bothered. And I think that's
Yeah.
super important because life is, I think our lives reflect how well we can manage the stress, how well we can manage our stress. And so I think I think a lot of people just disregard, like, why would I ever do this? It's like, well, how long do you
Right.
want to be pissed off in your life?
Yeah.
If there's a lot
Yeah.
you can do to decrease that. I mean, does that make sense? Kind of the way that I explained
It makes perfect sense. And I think there's so much in our lives and sports specifically that we can't control. Like coaches always talk about controlling the controllables,
that? Yeah.
but that list of controllables is really pretty small when you think about it.
Yes.
And so if you're reacting as an athlete to everything that you can't control, are you the best version of yourself? Are you giving your team, yourself the opportunity to get the result that you want? And I would argue no, because you're not present and you're spinning out about a call or a fan or another player or somebody chirped in your ear and was talking about like your mom or your girlfriend or whatever, right? And you react and you take yourself out of the game. And these skills allow you, yeah, you may still react, but you're able to like, oh, I just reacted. I'm going to come back to the moment. Or maybe you don't react at all, right? We're still human. We're still going to have that response. But if athletes want to be the best, to perform at an elite level, to compete at higher and higher levels, they have to learn to manage that. I mean, I love, JJ McCarthy. There's so many pictures of him meditating under a goalpost before his games at Michigan, right? And that's what he was doing. He was training his brain, right, to be present before a game
Mhm.
because he understood that.
Yeah. I remember I was literally watching like something a couple days ago and they were showing JJ McCarthy and they were like, this is what this guy does. And I'm like, that is so cool that he's
Mm-hmm.
taking the time. I think he goes out barefoot
He
too.
does. He goes, takes his
Right?
socks off, sits right underneath
Right.
the goalposts, and does
It's
his
incredible.
thing.
So I can't help but to believe that every person who's listening to this at some point in their lives has dealt with that self-doubt and
Yeah.
right, that inner critic. It's probably just a natural part of being a human. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about the people of the world who are super high performers, whether they
Okay.
are CEOs and very philanthropic and very financially successful, or maybe they are athletes. You think of a LeBron James, you think of a Tom Brady, a Roger Federer.
Mm-hmm.
They have done something
Mm-hmm.
to minimize that self-doubt, probably,
Yeah.
and quiet that inner critic.
Mm-hmm.
What have they done that we can start to try and duplicate to get
Right.
that level of mental mastery?
So I think there's a couple things. I think they understand that inner critic is part of our DNA and biology and part of being human, right? That our brain's jobs, really its sole function is to keep us safe. It doesn't care how much money we make, how many titles we win, right? How successful we are, how your performance was on game day. Its job is to keep you safe. And so for me, understanding that allowed me to create some space when that inner critic, that inner voice, that self doubt came online. That I'm like, hey, that's my mean girl voice. And I literally call it that. Like, that's my mean girl voice. And like, that's not me. And I think being able to separate that they are not that you are not your thoughts. Like an athlete is not their thoughts. Like they're the one that shows up and does the work. The CEO is the one that puts in the long hours, that does the meetings, that does all of the work. And that inner voice is just keeping us safe, right? And that's that very primitive part of our brain. And we want that to exist. We
Yeah.
want that to be there because we need that. We need, it basically gets a signal, whether that's excitement or nerves or adrenaline. And it's like, oh, I better go to work. But it doesn't know that it's like, no, I'm just really excited for this game or I'm excited for this presentation. It thinks that there's something trying to hurt us. And so we have, knowing that ability, it's like, no, I'm safe. I've got this. You can just go sit over here. So I think really understanding that and learning to coexist with it and work with it, like work with that discomfort and understand that, you've put in the work to get there. And that's that confidence piece, like giving your brain that evidence of like, no, I'm good. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Okay, mean girl, you can go sit down. I've talked to teams hundreds of times now. I know I'm good with this. I appreciate your concern, but I've got it. And it sounds a little kind of fluffy or woo-woo or maybe soft, in terms of like it's an actual hard skill, but it's really understanding what this was designed to do. And
Yeah.
it's survival.
Yeah. And I think what it also does though is it separates it from you. And
Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
as Lucinda, as DJ,
Yes.
it separates it from, oh, I'm not this person who's super mean to myself. It's merely just a thought that came in that was trying to protect me from some future projection of pain, suffering, or
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know that if I follow these steps in the ways that I'm confident and I have provided evidence that I can completely do this,
Yes.
things are going to be completely okay.
Yes.
Do you have any stories of
Mm-hmm.
athletes or teams that you've worked with where they were operating in one sabotaging way or one negative way, you could say to themselves? You worked with them, you installed some type of tool, practice, or strategy, and they shifted into a much more productive or positive way of speaking to themselves.
So I think that the one that comes up is there. She's now a junior on University of Buffalo women's soccer team, and her first year, that first year in college athletics, it's like it's rough, right? You're everybody's equal. You're no longer the top. You've got this transition. You show up early, like you're working a lot, and she really struggled. Like she struggled with confidence, and anytime anybody said something to her, you could just see the emotion.
Mm.
And so one of the things when I'm working with a team, like they have access to me one-on-one. And so she shot me a text. She's like, hey, can we talk? And for her, it was a lack of confidence, but it ties to that inner critic, because the inner critic then feeds on that. And it's like, oh boy, I have her attention now. I'm going to start to chatter. And so we talked about, really being intentional about, after practice and games, like what are those three things that actually went well? Like take your emotion out of it, take your feelings, take your stories out. What went well? And then where are those opportunities for growth? And she said, okay, right. And she started doing it. And last year she was tremendously focused, like her mental game grew. I mean, it was night and day. And we were in the spring, and we were, I don't know what we were doing. And she said something, well, like my reflection is like a 10 out of 10. And everybody kind of looked at her and they're like, really? Like you reflect on like your performance? And she's like, yeah, I've been doing this for 2 years. I've been logging this after every practice and game. And I'm like, I looked at her and I said, you have? She's like, well, yeah, you told me to. And I was like, well, not everybody does what I tell them to, like it was a suggestion, an offering, you choose it. But I was talking to the head coach and he's like, well, that we have seen her growth, right? And she turned into a starter, an impact player. Like she is making a difference, and super excited to see now and going into her junior year, as she continues that practice, how that shifts over time. Because it doesn't take long. It's not a big, like you got to spend an hour, like jot down three things, easy, right? And then move forward.
Yeah.
And that does two things. It allows you to reflect, but in those moments where your self-doubt, your inner critic comes online, she has a book and she can go back and she's got evidence. She's got 2 years worth of data, right? Our brain loves data. We love to make meaning out of things. So she's got the data to counter that self-doubt and that inner critic.
Yeah. And I'm hoping that there are parents who are listening to this who want that same thing for their son or daughter.
Yeah.
Right? Their son or
Yeah.
daughter is maybe they're lacking some confidence, they're sophomores, juniors maybe, and they know that they got more in the tank. Actually
Hmm.
starting to track the positives of the day, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's, hey, I showed up to practice on time and had a great warm up, right? Like little things. And that's what I often tell the guys because, like, whenever we have like sessions, and we'll always start with, like, hey, what's a good win that you experienced in
Yeah.
the past couple of weeks? And sometimes guys will just sit there for like 30 seconds. They're like, I don't know. And I'm like, did you wake up today?
Hmm. Hmm.
Great. Did you have breakfast? Great. What'd you do? I went to work. Did you show up on time? Great. There's three wins right there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Notice those things, and that's a big. The other thing I wanted to hit on was evidence, and that's a
Yeah.
huge thing that personally changed my life throughout my 20s when I actually started tracking my habits, and it seems so simple, yet to put on a calendar, I'm going to work out today, or I'm going
Hmm.
to today, or I'm going to wake up. I was literally right before this call, I was working with a young man. We were building out his schedule, and he's waking up at 7 a.m. and he's walking 1 mile and listening to the Be That Guy podcast Monday through Friday. And then he's going to ride his bike to school. And I was like, and I want you to track all of these on your habit calendar. And it just creates proof of one, you're following through on what you said you were going to do,
Hmm.
which drastically changes the inner workings of your self belief, your self image, all of that. And two, it creates a memory of your accomplishments.
Right.
And I think we can forget just how much is going right in our lives.
Yeah.
We don't take the time to actually track it and actually like write it down because I have, and for those of you who are watching, right, like this is my calendar that I use to track all of my habits with. I have sheets of these that I've kept for the last 6 months to a year that I can look at and be like, holy cow, like
Hmm.
there's just X's everywhere. And just that visual, and we've actually talked about, hey, do we want to make the habit tracker electronic? And I'm like, I don't want to. Like the part of the value is actually seeing your progress over a long duration of time.
Right.
And I think there is a opportunity to make them electronic, yet I still want to make sure that we have the physical ones because imagine putting these up on a wall, right? Imagine
Yeah.
that one athlete putting her journal on a wall over those 2 years and looking at all of her accomplishments. I mean,
Yeah.
like, what do you think that does to somebody's mindset about themselves?
Right. It's gonna be that confident. It's gonna change it, right? I mean, what it we hold on to negative things 10 times more, 10 times longer than we hold
Oh,
on to the positive, right? It takes five positive things to counteract that one. So like that inner voice, if you had all of those accomplishments on your wall, like it just as wallpaper, like your inner voice is still going to try to find that negative, but you have that counter where
mm,
it's like, no. And I want people to understand, like, it's okay to have that doubt, right?
mm.
That's part of the human experience. Like we're human beings, right? And we're going to have those emotions. We're going to have hard things. We're going to have pain. We're going to have discomfort, but it's how we internalize it and how we deal with it. And so I think having these habits and having these skills allows you to choose how you want to interact with it.
Mm.
Like maybe I need to choose to dig into why I'm mad, right? Or maybe like, you know what, right now I need to focus on this, right? It gives us choice, but when we don't have those skills in place, we get hijacked by the emotion.
That makes me feel like we have more control too,
Yes.
right? Like choice is control.
Mm-hmm.
We always technically have a choice. And
Always.
right, we always have a choice. I heard, I think Mel Robbins said this, where sometimes your emotions just happen out of nowhere, right? And you have no idea,
Mm.
and you can't really control them. You don't know why you're sad, right? Sometimes you don't know why you're happy. Yet we can control the next move, right?
Yep.
We can control the behavior. We can control the response. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's difficult sometimes because
Sure.
that control is something that I think we all want. And I think you mentioned earlier, right? There's not a lot of things that we can control, which makes it very difficult in our lives because I'm personally going through a lot of this right now where I was literally talking to my business partner yesterday, and I'm like, I think I'm just trying to control a lot of things that I really have zero control over. And you end up
Yeah.
trying to pull at these strings that aren't attached to anything, and that's where a lot of the stress then starts to kick up.
Yeah. And thinking about, athletes, like they don't have control over the call or the play or what somebody says, but what they do have control over impacts how the rest of that performance goes.
Mhm. Yep.
You know, the best example that I love to tell, and my mom, thankfully she probably won't listen to this. She hates it that I tell the story, but my brother played soccer, um, all through high school, played club, played in college, and his senior year of high school, the refs they were horrible. They were making bad calls. Players were getting hurt. And she got really like she could not control her response or her reaction. And she actually got a red card and then got banned for the rest of his senior season.
Holy cow.
Right.
She got banned
Yeah.
the whole
She
season?
got banned from the field. Right. So her inability to control that response and that reaction not only impacted her being able to watch my brother play his senior year, but impacted him and his performance and how he felt about himself. Right. And I mean, I say it kind of tongue in cheek and poke fun of her, but like that was a real thing. And had she just had that like moment to be like, okay, I can't control that. I can control how I respond. It'd been completely different. Right.
Yeah. All right, so I want to take a shift into the seven pillars.
Okay.
I want to shift into those, and what I want to know is first, let's go through what each pillar is.
Okay.
And how can somebody who's listening today apply it to their lives in like a simple way?
Okay. So, pillar one is what does it mean to perform present? What does it mean to be what I call a mindful athlete? And the foundation of what I teach is around the idea of the only way to impact the outcome of the game is to perform present, right? So, what does that mean? And so it means being in the moment, right? Being in the moment. And so we talk a lot about anchors. And anchors are something that keeps you grounded in the present. So it can be your breath. It can be athletes love having like using their environment as an anchor. So, the center line, right? The hash marks on the side of the field, right? The goalpost, the clock, like those could be anchors of like anytime you find yourself getting in your head, feeling that inner critic, you come back to that. And right here, right now, right? So we talk a lot about anchors. Pillar two is body awareness. And so this I think is so fascinating because athletes are like everything is scripted for them. Like they're told what to do with everything and they don't learn to listen to that body and what it's telling them, but they hear mind body connection all the time. But they don't know what that means. So helping them understand and asking their body, like, what do you need?
Mhm.
And then being able to honor that. For me, my armpits get sweaty, my heart races, my chest gets heavy. I know if those three things happen, my little mean girl is about to go to work. And so helping them understand that if they can catch that when they're on the sidelines, man, how does that then impact when you go into the game? Right? Understanding, hey, this is happening. I need to pay attention and I need to redirect my thoughts.
Heart starts beating really fast, and then my body gets hot, and then it like kind of comes up to like my into my jaw and into my face, and I know like I'm getting nervous or anxious,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been starting to notice like I called it like the tipping point of like when am I getting to the point of like, oh, I'm getting angry, I'm getting nervous, I'm getting anxious, all of that, and just trying to be more aware of it, right? What are the typical things that get me to that point, right? What are the typical sayings? What are the typical things that happen? And then I play this story in my head, oh, they must mean that, or this must be happening. And it's like, none of that's actually
No,
happening.
that's true.
Right? I'm just creating it in my head. So
Right.
yeah, so
Right.
feel that one.
And I think the thing, it's great because mental skills like it gives us those tools so that we can solve the problem, not create the problem.
Yeah.
Right. Because oftentimes we create the problem, we make it worse,
Mhm.
like it means this is going to happen. And that usually has nothing to do with the other thing, right? We
That's so
create that experience.
that's so frustrating when you think about it. Like I feel like we
No.
are really are our own worst enemies.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
something happens and we just create the story, we give it this meaning, we give it this label, and it must mean that. So now we're going to think this, and it's just a mess.
Yeah. 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 And
Mental.
and really I think all of this, all of mental fitness, mental performance, mental skills, it's all about awareness.
Mhm.
Ultimately, I think at the root of it, it's about self-awareness. And the
Yeah.
more self-aware we are, the better we're able to perform, right? Um,
Pillar three.
Pillar 3, mission, vision, guiding principles. Like what are those things that are important to you? Why do you do what you do? I see this as the roadmap. We often pull this piece out and do it in preseason. So if we're living by our mission, our vision being our goals, our guiding principles, understanding what's above the line, below the line in terms of behavior and standards, if we are following this, we will ultimately have success because we are embodying what we say is important.
Mhm.
And it's a really fun, I love doing it because a lot of athletes will say, well, I played my whole life, or it's fun, or my parents signed me up and I happen to be good at it. Like, yeah, but there's a point where that's not enough. Like, what is it that drives you, right? Is it to be a captain? Is it to have success? Is it, because you feel better? Is it you like being part of a team? Like, those things are important to understand when it gets hard, because it will get hard when it's 100 degrees outside and you're sweating and you're like, why am I doing this?
Oh yeah, I had a lot of those moments when because I played at St. John Fisher College.
Mm-hmm.
That was when we could do two-a-days, and I remember like walking on the field during the two-a-days, just about every practice, and being like, "You're as uncomfortable as you could possibly imagine. Like it's hot out, your pads are still sweaty from the morning. You have a
Yep.
2.5 hour practice in at 2:30 p.m. It's 90 degrees out. Your socks are still a little wet. Your cleats are hot. Your gloves are still a little wet. And it's like, what are we really doing this for? And
Mm-hmm.
you question that stuff sometimes. And I had many moments in my freshman year, as you mentioned earlier, like when you
Yeah.
start that college athletics,
Mhm.
you go from this big guy on campus in high school to this small fish, and nobody knows your name. You're the fourth on the depth chart, and you have to figure out how to one learn this position at a level you've never really learned before,
Right.
and get good at it while managing your new freedoms of being in college. And that's a lot. And that's a
It's a
big
lot.
reason why I want to help the young men going into college with our habit stuff, because I think habits give them
Yeah.
right? So it all kind of aligns. Um, but yeah, the mission, the vision, and the guiding principle
Yeah. Yeah.
to know that.
Yeah. And then pillar 4 is my favorite. It's that inner critic, right? What is it? How do we coexist with it? Why does it exist? Understanding that it's not you, and it's just a part. It's just a part of your body doing its job, and we don't want to squash it, like, but it can learn to go like sit in the stands with mom and dad and watch you do your thing, right? And athletes always love trying to come up with a name for it. I have a player, and I started working with her in high school, and she now plays in college, and she named hers the Dweller because she knew that every time that voice, and she started dwelling on past mistakes, on things that how they used to be, and she's like, oh, that's just my dweller. That's not me. That's just my dweller making an appearance. And so it's really effective. I mean, it seems very, they kind of giggle and we laugh about names and who they choose, but it creates that separation between the athlete, the individual, the human, and their thoughts.
Yeah. I had one once where I named it the belittler, where it was just
Oh,
like
that's good.
this voice in my head that just kind of belittled me. Like no matter what you do,
Yeah.
it's never really good enough. And
Yeah.
I've also had a character in my head that's the opposite, where it's like when you're in that peak flow and you're really
Yeah.
open and you're doing what you know you're capable of. I call him Disciplined Deej, and he's moving in the right direction. And so I try to stay in Disciplined Deej as much as I can, but sometimes that belittler,
Yeah.
and it's, I mean, to your fourth pillar, right, the inner critic, and to, hey, now we all have that inner voice. This is part of the human experience, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. And really, how do we turn that inner critic into your inner champion, right? Like that person that like keeps you going. Sometimes you have to give yourself a little pep talk, right? Like, I got this.
I just did a podcast last week about how to properly use negative self-talk. And
Mm.
I equated it to jumper cables, where I can use it in the beginning to get me going, yet I'm not going to stay there.
Oh, that's genius. Yeah.
So like we were in a group session and a young man, he was saying, we were talking about discipline and we were talking about waking up early and going to the gym. And I asked the guys, I'm like, how do you guys get up and go to the gym? And one of the guys goes, I talk really bad to myself for like a couple seconds and it like hurts my heart and my soul. And he's like, and then I get up and go to the gym. And I'm like, and does it work? And he goes, I get up and go to the gym eventually every day. And I'm like, so the momentary pain of the negative self-talk ends up giving you the goal that you want. You achieve the thing. And so I thought it was a really, really important moment. So I made a 12-minute podcast about it where I was like, I'm for a second of negative self-talk. I'm okay
Mhm.
with it if we want to use it strategically, right? This is where it comes back to, hey, you have this choice. I'm choosing to speak a little bad to myself right now. It isn't just like randomly happening. I'm going to kind of say this to myself right now because that's going to trigger me into getting out of bed or eating the right diet that I want or sending that text or making that call that I didn't want to and doing the disciplined thing. Yet once I start the actual journey of doing the thing, then I'm going to support myself and then I'm going to have much more positive self-talk. Right. So it's like,
Yeah. And I think that's where that awareness comes in, right?
yes. Hmm.
Because that could be a very slippery slope. I
Hmm.
mean, I think like younger version of myself, I could easily go down that and then that becomes the habit. And then we've
Yeah.
got to like rewire that. But I like that. And then you're choosing, okay, I'm gonna leave it here and do
Yes.
something more supportive.
Yeah. Use it strategically, right? Don't stay in negative self-talk all the time. That doesn't feel good. Yet
No,
it
no.
can be a positive. So, all right, let's go to 5, 6, and 7.
So five is confidence, right? So confidence is an action, not a feeling. We want to feel confident, but that feeling only comes from taking the action. So seeing confidence as a daily rep, whether that's identity statements, like I have an identity script that I listen to every day, right? That's I recorded in my voice. And the first thing I do when I get in the car is I play that, right? And so what I want to create, again, giving your brain evidence, and
Yes.
that's going to build the confidence. Pillar six,
I do the same thing.
do
With
you?
I recorded something. I have two things. I record me and my future wife, what our life
Okay.
looks like together.
Okay.
And by the way, my future wife, I want you to listen to this one day just to know how hard I'm working on bringing you my life. All right. So I
I
just
love that.
want you to appreciate that. I'm publicly saying this. And the other one is what a perfect day in my life looks like.
Yeah.
The people that I see, the things I get to do, how I wake up, how I go to bed, the work that I get to do throughout the day, where I live, what I see, what I smell, everything. And so I listen to it. I listen to me and my wife on the way to the gym, and then I listen to the perfect day on the way back from the gym. And it's awesome because like I'll play it on repeat because each one, the wife one's maybe like 3 to 4 minutes, the other one's maybe like about 5 minutes, and I'll play them just on repeat. And then when I park, I'll wait until it finishes, and I'll just close my eyes and just wait till it finishes, and it's a
Yeah.
start the day because you're thinking about some really good things.
Yeah. Yeah. I still haven't gotten over listening to my own voice. Like I still like I don't know what point, I don't know how much mental fitness like can get me past to like hearing my own voice, but it is powerful, right? It's powerful to hear yourself speak that. And I'm a big believer of right the power of intention and speaking things into existence and being able to feel into that. So helping that's just one of the ways helping them understand that confidence is action and we get clarity through taking action,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
And then 6 is mistakes, setbacks, self-compassion. How do we respond when things don't go well? Um,
That's a tough one.
it's a tough one. It's a tough one.
Self-compassion. There,
Yeah.
probably make a whole program just on that one.
Yeah. And I think it's hard. It's hard. They can have athletes have compassion for their teammates, but they don't have compassion for themselves. We can have compassion for other people, but it's harder to have it for ourselves. So, there is a loving kindness, self-compassion meditation that I've scripted just for teams through that athletic lens. And then sometimes just what lens we see things through. I mean, I think my own story is a perfect example. The lens I chose to see heartbreak through turned into something like it happened for a reason. I believe that with my entire being, that I was chosen to have that experience so that I could do this. Now, did that take me a while to get to that point? Absolutely. In the midst of it, if you would have told me that, I would have probably punched you in the throat. But now looking back, absolutely. Like that was the greatest gift.
Yeah. Need some time to heal those big emotional swings.
Yeah, yeah.
I think
And I think that self-compassion is giving yourself the time
Mhm.
to heal that. Like if you have an ACL injury, people tell you it's going to be fine, you're going to be good. Well, yeah, eventually, but right now it really sucks, and I'm really upset, and I'm heartbroken, and I lost my identity. And like giving athletes the ability to feel those emotions and be compassionate towards themselves so that they can get to the other side of it, I think is huge.
And I would say too, even to people who are listening who aren't necessarily in athletics, like any life event, right? You lose your job, right? You break up with a significant other, somebody you love passes away. I always use the example of when my grandfather passed away. I was mentally preparing for it for months, like doing daily work to get ready for it. And when it happened, it still was really hard to get through. And I used time to kind of heal the wound and just understand that, hey, my grandfather's not here anymore. And I have to get okay with that, and I can still, pray to him and believe that he's here spiritually. Yet, if somebody was to say, "Hey, you're going to be okay," the day he passed away, I would have been like, I would have taken a book or a page out of your book and punched him in the throat. Right? It's
Right.
like, right? Like I'm so fresh to this wound right now that
Yes.
no matter what you say, it's probably not like frankly, I think in those moments, I'd actually rather have somebody agree with just the pain, right? Just be
Absolutely.
like, man, that's horrible, right? What do you need from me,
Yeah.
right? Like, just meet them exactly where they are, type of thing. Don't try to solve the problem. Don't try to fix it. Merely just try to listen in those moments. So I
Mhm.
think that's super, super important, especially when somebody makes a mistake, there is a setback, and we're trying to find that self-compassion.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so what's the last one? Number 7.
The last one, and this is a new one. This is a new
I
one
know
this
you were saying.
summer.
I remember the first time you're
So,
like,
and
"This
it,
is a new
it's
one."
so funny because I was with the team for the first time this week for their preseason, and I was kind of showing them the toolbox. And I'm like, does anybody notice anything different? And they're like, wait, that number 7, that's not been there. And I was like, yes, you pay attention. So I'm calling it the 3 R's. So it's reflection, rest, and recovery.
Mm,
Um, I think that reflection is the piece of the performance cycle, no matter what your performance is, that we tend to skip over. Like we like the preparation, we like the performance, but that reflection we skip because we have some sort of narrative about what it's supposed to be or how long it's supposed to be or what we're supposed to learn. And I think just taking a few moments to pause and reflect, it informs then how we prepare the next time, right? And then that circle continues and we can close those gaps. I think those athletes, those Tom Brady's, those Russell Wilsons, right? Those guys, those elite performers or CEOs, they're reflecting, they're debriefing, they're pausing afterwards, not for a long time, but long enough to reflect on what they went through and then what needs to shift, if
mm,
anything. Right? Sometimes we don't need to shift, and that's great data,
mhm.
right? But that reflection gives us data. And then, recovery, I think, and rest, it's giving yourself permission, right, to rest. Like if you like, we need to rest. And I think that's what I loved about that first moment with that football team is like that pose is designed to allow your mind and body to rest. And even if it's for 5-10 minutes, that's helping yourself, right? And so really being intentional about how we use that, not just taking a nap on the couch, right? Like, okay, yeah, that's resting. And sometimes it is, I need to go upstairs, I need to take a nap because I need sleep as recovery and rest. But sometimes it's, not driving with something on the radio. Maybe it's silence. Maybe it's, not talking on the phone or disconnecting from your phone for a period of time. Like there's ways to do it that are intentional.
I actually, so last night, so as of recording this, I was sharing how I had just a long day yesterday.
Yeah.
And when I was done with the day, each week, so right now I'm tracking, I run 16 miles a week each week. And then each month I go up by 1 mile and I track it each week. And after this day, I was kind of exhausted, yet I wanted to kind of escape the day by actually going for the run. And it felt
Mm.
a nice rest and recovery almost from the day. And this morning I was in boxing and I was talking to the guy who trains me and he was like, "How was your day yesterday?" I was like, "Oh, it's a long day." And I said, "Yeah, I escaped the day by running 2 miles at night. I just needed to kind of get out." And he goes, "You escaped the day by running 2 miles?" And I was like, "Yeah, like I just genuinely thought, like I just wanted to feel free. I just wanted to be
Yeah.
a computer. I wanted to breathe. I wanted to feel the sun on my skin." And I felt like a stallion running out there. I felt so good. And I came back. I could breathe a little bit. I had a nice little
Mhm.
protein shake, and it was like time to go to bed. And I was like, all right, like I'm good. Like I just needed that. So I think rest and recovery comes in many different forms, I think, depending upon what works for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we tend to think of physical recovery as like mobility, yoga, rolling, foam rolling, like the Theragun, like,
Yeah.
yeah, those are great, but it's also a lot of other things.
Yes, I would agree. Okay. So the four pillars, the 7 pillars, we got mindful and being present as number one,
Mhm.
body awareness is two, mission, vision, and your guiding principles is three, managing that inner critic, number four, confidence, it's an action, not a feeling, number five, mistakes, setbacks, and self-compassion, number six, and number seven, newly added, the three R, reflection, rest, and recovery. All right. So for all of you guys who are listening, write those down. And if you need some help, contact Lucinda. We'll give you her contact stuff at the end here. All right. Last, I want to ask three quick questions to kind of
Uh-oh.
wrap this up. What's your best book for mindset?
Oh, it's such a toss up. So I love, this, right? I love Trevor Moad. It takes what
Yes.
it takes.
Oh, yeah.
I also love George Mumford, The Mindful Athlete.
Okay.
So George Mumford is who Phil Jackson hired to work with the Bulls and later the Lakers. And everybody thought Phil Jackson was crazy. And Mumford came in and did mindfulness, did meditation, did yoga. And he actually worked with the Edmonton Oilers, not this year, but the previous year, where they had like their worst start in franchise history and then ended up getting to the Stanley Cup finals the first year.
The stuff works,
Um,
guys. The stuff works.
it
There's
works. It
proof,
works. I mean, Connor McDavid does it. So,
right? Like,
like,
there's got to be
but
something.
I think he does a really good job of explaining something that can be intimidating and kind of woo woo, and out there, and really brings it down to his own experience as an athlete and his hardships through life, and then it makes it like digestible. So I love it.
All right. Mindful Athlete by George
Mhm.
Mumford and It Takes What It Takes by our lovely Trevor Moad. Rest in peace. Right?
Yes,
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 Trevor Moad
absolutely.
had a huge effect on me as well, neutral thinking. And the audible version of that is actually the foreword is read by Russell Wilson, I believe.
I
But
believe it is. I believe it is. Yeah.
because I've listened to that multiple times and it's incredible. Do you have any pregame rituals that you still use?
Yeah. So before I go in to like anything to speak or teach, I take a moment and like get in my feet. Like I really ground in my feet. I breathe. I
Mhm.
tell myself I've done this a million times. I give myself a little evidence. and I always have coffee, like always.
Always have coffee.
Starbucks is like
The red
like
cup.
it
The
owns
red cup.
Starbucks, the red cup, right? It goes back to that red cup. I don't know. I always have coffee with
Okay.
me.
Coffee, getting the feet, and
Yep.
remember you've done the thing 1,000 times. You have plenty of evidence that's going to be okay.
It'd be okay.
Love that.
Right? Even if it doesn't go as planned, it's gonna be fine.
I often tell guys, like, if you see a pretty girl and you want to go talk to her, and like they go talk to her and it's like, ah, she said no, she got rejected. You got rejected. It's like, are you still alive?
Yeah.
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 Are you okay? Yeah. Great. We can go do it again.
Go do it again. That's right. That's right.
Right? Everything's gonna be okay. Last thing, any mindset myths that you want to debunk quickly?
Oh gosh. I think there's two, right? I think that the first is that like being mindfulness, meditation, being present, that you have to have all of this time to do it. Science shows, research shows, data shows 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes a day of really focusing on being present changes your brain chemistry. So you don't need to be like Buddha and sit under a tree for days on end, right? Like nobody has time for that.
Yeah.
And you still get the benefits. And so I think finding ways to incorporate that when you look at it as like 10 to 15 minutes of your day, that becomes really easy to do.
Mhm.
It becomes a little bit more digestible. Like I don't have to like carve out all of this time.
Yeah, I agree with
So
that. I mean, the practice I do is probably about 10 minutes a day, and it's
yeah,
super simple, and I spread it out throughout the day, so it's not all done at once, and it works. I can genuinely feel it in my body. Um,
yeah,
all right, Lucinda, this was awesome. This is
that's fun.
we
Yeah.
talked about so many good things. Where can people find you? Where can parents find you? Where can schools find you? I mean,
Okay.
tell them where to go right now.
So my website, so it's peakflow.info is got a ton of information, ways to contact me. Got some free downloads, journal prompts, some good stuff on there. And then Instagram, it's peak underscore flow underscore. So I'm on there all the time trying to up my social media game. It's part of my own daily habits that I keep kicking to the curb because I'm resistant. Um, and then email. So I think it's peakflowrock@gmail.com.
Peakflowrock@gmail.com. Awesome. And what we'll do is we will, for anybody listening who does want to get in touch with Lucinda, I'll put all those just linked right in the description of this. So that it's just an easy one click away.
Yeah.
Well, Lucinda, thank you so much for your time
Thanks.
today, your expertise. This was absolutely awesome. I have a whole page of notes that I've been taking throughout this,
I love it.
and this was just absolutely awesome. I wrote down and circled, it works. This
It
stuff works.
does.
If you take it serious, it works.
It
And
does.
it's the stuff that you're doing with teams, with athletes, I really wish we had when I was in high school and in college. I think everything would have been way different. And
Mhm.
to the athletes who are doing this today, who are in high school and who are in college, take this as serious as anything in your life because it isn't just for athletics, it's for your life.
Yeah,
Because athletics are going to end one day.
they will. They will. They will.
Right? There's that great NCAA commercial that says, 99% of us are going professional in something other than sports, right?
Yes. So
So,
true.
right, so just remember that, we're training what's between the ears, not only on the field, but off the field as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
awesome.
Well, thanks for having me. It was a blast.
Yes, thank you so much. We'll stay in touch. And for everybody who tuned in today, thank you guys so much for your time. If you got some value out of this, share it to all of the local high schools and colleges so that Lucinda can start teaching more college football guys to do yoga. I would love to see 100 plus guys do yoga at one time. That is incredible. We need more of that. It would improve the game and it'll help the guys out. So
They're my favorite. Football's my favorite. Love them.
awesome. All right, guys, we'll see you soon and keep being that guy. Talk soon.